Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back. I'm Tally, and I wanted to do a bit of a casual, unscripted ramble review of a couple of books I've finished this year so far. I'm really enjoying the books I've read. I'm really enjoying the books I'm currently reading. I want to ramble about it. I was going to write up like a review script, but honestly, I just want to my thoughts. And I hope you don't mind. Okay, so the first book I read is Dearest by Jackie Waters. This is a horror. It's like a motherhood horror, which I found I'm quite enjoying when I pick them up. So I do think it's something I need to pick up more often, because when I do, I really enjoy them. I think obviously as a mother, the horror in motherhood horror hits a lot closer to home and like cuts a lot deeper than it would have before I had children. So in Dearest, we follow Flora, who has just had a child. I think her child is around 6 months old, and her husband is military based, so he works away. Flora is quite isolated. She doesn't have a good relationship with her mother. We don't really find out why, but it's kind of hinted at. Maybe there was a bit of like emotional abuse going on. She does have a good relationship with her dad and her stepmom, and they do come and stay with her and help out with the baby a little bit. But she feels like she's a bit of a failure if she has help, which I think is something that a lot of mums go through, especially postpartum. And Flora is clearly having some sort of postpartum depression affecting her, but she doesn't want to ask for help or admit to it. Again, I think this is something that so many women go through, especially after having your first child, because you don't know what to expect. I'm not saying that postpartum depression can't hit you with any other children. Um, I definitely experienced it with my second child and not so much my first. And the book is told from her point of view, and we do get the unreliable narrator. Now, the reason I don't tend to read a lot of thrillers is because I find the reliance on female unreliable narrators to be cliche and lazy, in my opinion, in a lot of times. I particularly don't like it when it's written by a male author. I just find it to be, then I find it extremely lazy. And the problem I have with it often is a lot of authors, or as perhaps just the authors I've been reading, but I find in a lot of thrillers that use the unreliable female narrator, it harkens back to women always being considered hysterical, and I do not vibe with that as a personal reading preference. So in this, we do have an element of that. However, it's, as someone who has had children, I understand that post birth haze that you're in. My second child is 2 years old, and I still struggle with my memory, because when I was pregnant with her and after I had her, my memory just was basically non-existent, and still have so many basically black spots in my memory from that, because having children does change the chemical makeup of your brain, and it can really, really mess with you. It exacerbated so many, in me personally, it exacerbated so many ADHD traits that, looking back, I have had my whole life, but I had learned how to mask or deal with them, or like how to get around them. And since having my second, I found that I am struggling, and I'm struggling as much as my 7-year old who has ADHD and is going through that whole process. So it really, really does change who you are as a person. It changes how your brain works, and it's quite impressive and scary at the same time. And the fact that there isn't enough research done into it and enough people talking about it makes it even scarier when you're going through it. So you can feel like you're perhaps going crazy, for lack of a better word, and the sleep deprivation doesn't help. The having to be on the suddenly having to be on call 24/7 for another human being to keep them alive, and the lack of breaks you often get, especially particularly if you are a breastfeeding mother or you are a exclusively pumping mother. You are very much you're very much on a schedule for your baby. Okay, so putting that aside, this is what Flora's going through. Her baby cannot latch properly, so she is exclusively pumping, which adds an extra element to it because that is hard work. And so she has to be making sure 24/7 that she has milk available for her child. She's up during the night, she's pumping, she's getting pains and mastitis. She is going through it, and she is on her own. And then she starts thinking about her mum a lot. I think this is quite a common thing as well. When you have a child, you start thinking about your mum. And so she does reach out to her mum via email, and she knows she probably shouldn't. Her husband and her dad are always like, just don't even talk about her, don't even think about her, like, you know, she's out of your life. She reaches out to her mum via email, and then the next day her mum turns up on her doorstep with a bag and is like, hey, you need help, I'm here to help. So we have this position for Flora where she desperately needs the help, but she's being offered it from the person that she knows is probably not the best person to have around her, but overall she needs the help. And if this is an opportunity to reconnect with her mum, she's going to take it. So she invites her mum in, and then dark things start happening. Flora starts losing big stretches of time. She's doing things, she's making dinner but doesn't remember doing it, these various things. Her mum starts taking more and more care of the baby. I'm going to need to double check baby's name. Iris. So her mum starts taking more care of Iris, and Flora feels like she has no clue what's going on. And whilst this is happening, she finds I think it's a hippo's tusk in a box of stuff that was sent to her from her mum years and years and years ago. And her mum says, oh, your dad's got that for you when you were a baby. It's supposed to like ward off evil spirits. She put it under the crib. So Flora does that because she starts worrying that there's evil spirits coming for Iris, and she just basically spirals and spirals. And her mum becomes more and more dangerous and someone that can't be trusted. And there's a large section of the book where you just don't know. You don't know if it's Flora's sort of sleep deprived mind coming up with these things, or if her mum is actually someone that's quite dangerous and shouldn't be around her child. And it goes from there, and then it goes even crazier. Like, I was around the 40% mark, I would say, and I was like, okay, like, I've read a few books about a mum coming in and it turns out she's a little bit dangerous, and they can go one of, you know, they can either be something I really love or something that just does not work for me at all. So I was a bit and ahhing, but then it went crazy, and I was, oh my god, I was on the edge of my seat, metaphorically, towards the end of the book. It just had so many, I'm going to say the word twist because I can't think of another word, but there were so many bits that I just was like, how did I not see this coming? Or what is this author on? But it all worked so well. And overall, I loved this book. I loved it. It's just, it for me, it's that motherhood anxiety done right. And I've read a few of these over the years, and I definitely want to find more. So if you do know of any books that are like about motherhood and how it changes you as a person and the horror around that, I would definitely love more of that. I've noticed that over the last few years there is very much this is very prevalent in our horror, particularly I think it was 2023 the shortlist of the horror Goodreads, all of them, I think bar one, were about a family dynamic, and most of them were mother-daughter dynamic, and I love it. I think it's, for me, in like my place in the world right now, where I am in my life, it is the most cutthroat horror for me. So yeah, please leave your recommendations. And and when I say I want recommendations, I want them to be around the mother. I don't just want recommendations of babies being kidnapped and tortured or something. I don't want that, thank you. I don't want to go that dark, thank you. So another book I read that I just can't stop thinking about is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This book, I think this book is going to like stick with me for a while. It was, wow. So we follow Ro, who has gone through a awful breakup. Her boyfriend had been cheating on her, and so she takes a job and moves like out of town. So she moves out of town to basically start afresh, and it also helps that it means that she can leave behind her mum, who is quite narcissistic, again with the mother-daughter things. And she moves town, and she's trying to like live that life. She's trying to live like the picturesque kind of Pinterest life for herself. And she goes to the farmer's market one day, and she stumbles into a tent where she meets Ash. And Ash owns a stall there. She sells handmade candles, cupcakes, pottery, you name it, she does it. She's kind of like a homesteader, but without the conservative vibes. And Ro becomes absolutely enamored with Ash, and she starts to question her sexuality. She's never felt what she feels for a woman before. And it turns out that Ash is quite flirty back. They end up in this kind of flirty relationship where Ro goes every Saturday morning, and Ash gives her cupcakes, and then Ash gives her a plant, and then gives her instructions on how to keep the plant alive. And she says, come back next week and update me. So they go like this. And eventually they do go on a date together. So Ash invites Ro to her house. They do end up dating, and Ro becomes quite obsessed with Ash. Ash is very closed off. She doesn't tell Ro much about herself. She has a lot of these boundaries, and she doesn't like people snooping. She likes to be private. And Ro really struggles to follow those boundaries, and she does find herself googling, like she is snooping one day and she finds out Ash's surname, which Ash has never told her, so she does end up like googling Ash to find out about her. And one day Ro is at the farmer's market, and another lady comes to talk to Ash, and she seems quite flirty, so Ro starts like researching her, and Ro becomes quite obsessive with her need to find out more about Ash, because Ash is not giving her any information at all. And then it goes fucking crazy. Like, there are so, and okay, this is the thing, I'm trying to do this without spoilers. Okay, so Ro becomes obsessed with Ash, and then Ash, okay, so they start dating, and Ash has all of these boundaries, but then it starts to become quite clear to the reader, not Ro initially, which is often the way it goes in these things, that Ash is somewhat emotionally abusive in the relationship, and it takes Ro a while to pick up on these things, because Ro is so emotionally beaten down at her meeting of Ash. She just blames herself for everything, which is obviously the perfect person for these kind of abusers to locate. They seem to be able to find these people quite easily. And the book is very, okay, what I loved about the book is it's very atmospheric, and there are these very tender, intimate moments between the women that are so beautifully written, and I just wanted more of that. and then it goes into a crazy place, and then the author brings it back a bit, and then it goes a little bit further, and it was just such a wonderfully written book. I would say it was like a dance, and I loved it. And I the last the last couple of chapters, in particular the last chapter, I just was just sitting there listening with like my jaw open, just in absolute shock at what I was hearing. And it was good. It was good, friends. Like, yeah, if you're looking for a sapphic horror, this one. I love this. I'm going to pick up more by this author. This was a fabulous book. It was so beautifully and hauntingly written, and I need more of this author in my life. I know that they have at least one short story that I want to check out, Guillotine. I think there's an author I need to be on the lookout for more of. And then finally, the one I'm gonna kind of ramble about today is not a mother-daughter relationship. It's a parent-son relationship at its heart. But this is Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is a new release, and it's also my first by this author. So if you are a fan of this author, please let me know which one I should pick up next. I'm kind of vibing towards Ghost Eaters, but I do have a e-copy of What Kind of Mother, again with the parent things. Apparently that's just the horror I'm into in a minute. But yeah, so this follows a guy, Noah, whose parents are falling down the alt-right pipeline. It all comes to a head at Thanksgiving when they make when there's like an argument about uh, immigration, and Noah's wife is Haitian and their daughter is obviously half Haitian, so he's like, right, we're leaving. And then he's done with his family basically. He's like, I will speak to him from afar via phone calls, but I don't really want much else to do with them. So when we meet Noah, it is about the 19th of December, I think. So it's like a week before Christmas. And his parents, in particular his mum, has been phoning him non-stop since that Thanksgiving issue. And she has been leaving absolutely unhinged voicemails for him. And she's talking about this reckoning that's due to happen on the 20th of December. And then she stops. And then Noah phones her and she's not answering her phone. And he phones his dad, and his dad's not answering. They're not answering the home line. He can't get hold of him. He phones his brother, who lives, I think, about 5 miles away. His brother's just absolutely not bothered and has no intention of going and checking on them. So Noah's like, right, it's going to come down to me. I'm going to have to go find out what's going on. So he drives cross country, promises his wife he'll be back for Christmas, promises his daughter he'll be back for Christmas, drives cross country. When he gets there, the house is absolutely like in disarray. There's soiled food everywhere, like the fridge is just full of rotten food. There's flies and insects and bugs everywhere. His parents are unclean, they're in dirty clothes, they're not really making any sense when they talk, and they're just watching the TV, which they have on 24/7, really loud, and it is called Just the Facts, and it's a far right news channel, which obviously spreads a lot of misinformation. I'm trying to work out the best way to phrase this. And his parents have been obsessed with it for a while, which is where their dodgy opinions are coming from. And Noah's trying to sort them out. He's trying to clean them up. He's trying to get them to eat, because they're like skin and bones. They've not been eating. And he's going through this, and he's thinking, this is it. This is my life now. I'm going to have to look after them. And I thought I had time before we got to this period. And then a countdown happens on the TV for the great reckoning, for the time when everyone must wake up and open their eyes. And as that happens, his mum attacks him, like quite violently. And then we go back 2 months, and we follow his brother and his daughter, his sister-in-law and their children, as they succumb to the same cult. It is like a pandemic-esque thing that happens, and it captures people via various social media and news channels and things like that. It's like a virus, basically. There was some of this that I really loved, and some of this that I thought could have done with a little bit more discussion. Obviously, I am British. I live in England. My view of American politics is from a English person's lens, obviously. But I do feel like there are some parts that Clay McLeod Chapman could have delved into a bit more. I think that the lack of, I mean, he obviously in a book you can't encompass everything, and he chose to focus his book on how social media and the news takes people down this pipeline, in particular like those in the wellness industry or those that are like part of the incel movement. They're like ripe pickings for these kind of things to happen. I do feel like we could have done with at least a nod to the fact that religion and religious places can also be quite ripe for picking people into these viewpoints and things like word of mouth and stuff like that. Because I do think that a lot of the time people like to sensationalize that it is social media that's doing this. I mean, the fact that TikTok is likely to be taken down in America, it harks to this, that people often in the right, far right sphere like to blame things on social media. His book is very much sensationalizing that, and that can be both a positive and a negative. But when we look at the horror of it and how it works as a horror book, I thought it was really, really good. It is very detailed in the gore, which is quite fun. There are some very creative deaths and ways of dying in here. I liked watching the devolution of people's mental stability, and I really enjoyed the ending of it as well. I liked how he ended it. There, he does fall into a trope that I don't really like, and I don't like it in any horror media. It is very, or was very prevalent in film, horror films. I hate it, and that is using a older woman's body as a scare, which no, I'm not a fan of at all. Apart from that, I I thought it was a really good book, and I definitely want to pick up more by him. So please let me know any that I should pick up next. It was a ride. It was a ride. So I had this as a digital copy, and then I also was able to pick up a audio arc from Libro, and the audio is full cast, so both were great. I could flick between the two during the day. So yeah, if you do want to check out a audiobook and you enjoy full cast, this one was really good full cast wise. I'd love to see this as a found footage film. I think it would work really well as a found footage film. So there we go. They're the first 3 books I've finished this year, and they've all been bangers. Let me know what is the first book that you have read or are reading this year. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you're planning on picking up any of these. Please drop them all in the comments. If you just want to let me know you were here but don't have anything to say, put a eye emoji for wake up and open your eyes. And I will see you soon in another video. Thank you for joining me today, friends. Bye.